Steve, would you consider having Spencer Pratt go around the state and campaign with you or for you?
100%.
Now that would be interesting. So I'm sure you've heard the news that Steve Hilton has officially been called to move on with this general election for the California governor race.
And look at the election in California as an example. After a week, they determined that the kid who's leading and had all the mojo, all of a sudden he doesn't make the runoff.
So very recently, once again, President Trump has talked about Spencer Pratt's campaign and of course Steve Hilton's campaign in California, questioning what exactly is going on with these votes. Because as you can see, Nithya Raman has really skyrocketed from that third place position within a matter of just days. So there is an investigation going on as far as the possibility of fraud in this election, and we actually have a comment from Governor Gavin Newsom, and he seems to be really questioning the legitimacy of these investigations. So we're going to dig into his statements, and of course these recent statements from the president. Now real quick before we start this video, make sure to please like the video. It helps out a ton, and it also helps others see the videos as well. And we've been covering these elections very closely, and I want to cover other elections. I don't want you guys to miss a thing. So let's start with these statements from the president.
It's voted in favor of that. It's really a shame, and it's so bad for the country. You'd almost think they hate the country because they're not stupid people. You can't cheat like they did. And look at the election in California as an example. After a week, they determined that the kid who's leading and had all the mojo, all of a sudden he doesn't make the runoff.
Okay, let's stop there. Leave your comments down below and let me know if you agree with President Trump as far as questioning what is going on here. The polling, the prediction markets, and even the first votes to come in were really leaning in favor for Spencer Pratt, but then all of a sudden, within a week, Nithya Raman just skyrocketed. But here's where things get interesting. President Trump has actually been rather silent about the Spencer Pratt campaign overall. But then, as many of you are aware, the president was talking about these California elections and Spencer Pratt almost every single day for a week. And here's what the president has to say about this. He actually is saying this probably helped Steve Hilton.
And then I hit them hard on that, but I started talking about Steve Hilton, who's a fantastic guy. And I saw them say it was going to be 2 weeks before they knew. And I started hitting them. It's going to happen to Steve Hilton, too. It's watch. You got to watch. And they approved Steve Hilton very quickly. They didn't want to.
Yeah, so let me know if you guys agree with President Trump that if it wasn't for him constantly talking about what's going on in California, he thinks it was going to happen to Steve Hilton too, where Tom Steyer was just going to squeak on by past Steve Hilton, and the same situation would have happened to Steve Hilton that President Trump is saying happened to Spencer Pratt. Let me know how you feel about this, but this is true. I mean, President Trump was hammering down what is happening in California, and as many of you are aware, this became national news almost every single day. Even today, we're still talking about what's going on in California, despite the fact that Steve Hilton has officially moved on with this primary, and Spencer Pratt is down in third. And we'll talk about the two, but let's finish these statements.
There's too much heat on him. The only reason he got approved, he had all the votes he needed, probably to be first place. But the only reason they approved Steve Hilton, it was going to be 2 weeks. They said it. And then they approved him that night because the heat was on them, because they're cheating dogs. And you can't have a great country when that happens. That's why Los Angeles, that's why that state is in such trouble.
So real quick before we continue, I do have a second channel known as The Supply Dude. It's a geopolitics channel, and I would love to see you guys over there. We talk about stories that most people have never heard of or are even talking about. So I will leave a pinned link and a link in my description if you guys can go and check it out. Go and watch my most recent video. It helps out a ton to see you guys over there. Thank you so much. Okay, so if you're unaware, we're being told by Bill Essayli, Harmeet Dillon, and the FBI is involved. There are investigations going on right now in California as far as possible cheating and voter fraud in California. However, there is a big distinction as far as the type of cheating. You have individual cheating like one person, you have an organization, or you have widespread fraud or cheating, and that's what Bill Essayli is trying to figure out. Is there a widespread fraud, or do we have individual cases to charge? charge. So according to Bill Asaley, we're being told there are cases ready to be charged, but this is what Governor Gavin Newsom is responding to. It raises serious questions when a prosecutor essentially promises to bring charges, but then in the next breath says, and what we need right now are witnesses, or evidence. So right here, as we can see, Governor Gavin Newsom questioning what are these investigations really about. Keep in mind, we are being told by Bill Asaley, expect charges soon, but we're not being told if it's on a widespread scale. The issue of knowing or not knowing if it's on a widespread scale, Bill Asaley has no access to the voter rolls in California on a widespread level. Right now, the Trump administration and the state of California are battling out in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals to allow access into the voter rolls so there can be some sort of audit. So to be honest with you, I don't think we'll know if there is any sort of fraud on a wide scale, if there is fraud, until you get those voter rolls. And that's even from Bill Asaley himself. Okay, so let's get to Steve Hilton. Of course he is happy, and he gets asked the question, hey, do you think you might bring Spencer Pratt along with you to help out with the campaign? Check out this answer.
Stayed around, but I'm excited. It's a great night.
Steve, would you consider having Spencer Pratt go around the state and campaign with you or for you?
100%. He made such an incredible impact. It's an absolute travesty that Los Angeles as a city won't have the same choice that the whole state will have. He laid out incredible plans. Of course, everyone talks about his amazing campaign ads, and that's true. But they forget that he had incredibly strong substantive policies, especially...
Okay, so let me know how you feel about this, and if you think it's a good idea to have Spencer Pratt tag along with the Steve Hilton campaign, or even possibly embed into the Steve Hilton campaign and help out. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't be too surprised if Spencer Pratt does hop on the Steve Hilton train. Mainly because when you look at both of their policies, although Spencer Pratt's policies were fine-tuned for Los Angeles, both of the candidates were proposing big change. And not only change, but popular change. Their talking points were overlapping in popularity as far as, we need more security, we need less trash in the streets. For Steve Hilton, he wanted to, of course, lower gas prices, and I'm sure Spencer Pratt, although would not have that much power to do that, would probably agree that's not a bad thing. So keep in mind, there was actually a lot of overlap in their campaigning as far as wanting change, but popular change.
On homelessness, which I said at the time, that's exactly what we need, not just in LA, but statewide. Yeah, 100%. I'd love that. He represents the kind of energy we need.
Okay, so speaking of Spencer Pratt, recently Jimmy Kimmel on his show, I don't watch the show, you guys can let me know if you watch his show, but basically it's being reported that he had this segment on his show where he was mocking Spencer Pratt, and he has this U-Haul here, just defeated with Spencer Pratt's face, gentle ride van, of course signifying when Spencer Pratt said, hey, if I lose this race, I will be leaving Los Angeles. Now, here is the response from Spencer Pratt. Jimmy Kimmel, I guess you missed the part of the story. I don't need a U-Haul. I have nothing left to pack. And this has really been the main theme of the Spencer Pratt campaign, is that when people hate on him, he's able to take that hatred and turn the story around because, of course, what you're about to see is Spencer Pratt doesn't have a home.
I don't think I'm going to get it. Oh, there's my rose quartz. That's cool. Is that the big quartz? Let's see.
So now, with a simple response like this, many people are looking at Jimmy Kimmel saying like, whoa, that's a little insensitive. We understand you don't like Spencer Pratt, but his whole house literally burnt down, and also that entire neighborhood, all of those people lost their homes as well. And by the way, Spencer Pratt heavily won in this neighborhood as far as votes coming in. And also, of course, this story gets now flipped towards Karen Bass as far as possible failures in helping out with the Palisades fire. Keep in mind, this was, again, the foundation for the Spencer Pratt campaign to also skyrocket in popularity. Hey, I lost my house, I'm one of you guys, and I want to help you out.
Well, look, the process is sowing distrust in the process. I agree with Rahm, I agree with Ro Khanna. When you take this long to count the ballots, of course people are going to have questions about it. Plus, the whole system out there mean, there's a reason that ballot harvesting, for instance, is illegal in a great many states. You've got millions of ballots that are mailed out to people who didn't ask for them. You have no voter ID. You have these ballot harvesters showing up. You know, you don't know them. They show up at your house, helping people fill out their ballots and turning them in. I mean, I don't know of any evidence that the election is rigged.
Control of elections.
I understand,
and
I'm
states get to
criticizing.
decide if everybody gets a ballot.
Does that make it okay, or would you impose this on everybody else?
Okay, so if you are paying attention to this election in California, you are probably noticing this common theme talked about almost every single day: the process in California itself. And there are actually lawmakers who are Democrats who are agreeing with Scott Jennings that they even believe things should change. Not only with the counting process, but also the whole process of the 1 and 2 position, where it's everybody versus everybody, not Republican versus Democrat. And because of that, you can have cases of lockout, either Democrat lockouts and Republican lockouts. And I want to show you guys, if there was a Democrat lockout, this actually might not have been a good situation for California. Apparently for Democrats, we could have almost seen like a Civil War type effect of Democrats fighting other Democrats in California.
Standing votes that Mr. Becerra and Mr. Hilton will face off in the fall. This, unless you're a Steyer supporter, Anderson, has caused a big sigh of relief among Democrats, both nationally and in California, because now you will have, it's by no means guaranteed. There's a lot of anti-establishment in Washington, in the House races, in the Senate races. We focus on voters angry at Washington, voters angry at President Trump, but voters everywhere are in a volatile mood. And Becerra is not the incumbent governor, but California Democrats have run the state for some time. So this is by no means a cakewalk, but by voter registration, it's an overwhelmingly Democratic state. And so Becerra versus a Republican is a lot easier for Democrats to swallow than Becerra versus Steyer, which would have been Democrat on Democrat fighting. Not only did they not want...
So that's definitely a very interesting theory, but I do want to circle back to what Gavin Newsom had said before. He was rather worried in case there was a lockout with Republicans. You know, he had that famous line, there is a broken glass scenario in case that happens. Of course, indicating to people watching this race that for voters in California, they would have preferred 2 Democrats over 2 Republicans in a lockout. So again, I'm simply just trying to show you guys all the different perspectives as far as this could have possibly been some infighting in California, and the best case scenario for California Democrats was actually a Republican versus a Democrat, so that even if you are a Tom Steyer fan and you don't like Becerra, you're definitely not going to vote Republican. That's the theory here. And speaking of Governor Gavin Newsom, I don't think this will surprise you, but he has officially endorsed Becerra. Becerra has the experience and grit California needs. He will stand up to Donald Trump, defend our families, and keep our state moving forward. It's time to get to work and help him win this November. But we also have another endorsement. I don't know if you guys remember, this is Kamala Harris, our former vice president. She has also endorsed Becerra. Congratulations to Becerra. I am excited to offer him all the support I can as he sets out to become our state's next governor. This race has featured a large field with many strong candidates, and I am confident that our party, Democrats, will now unite behind Xavier and his calm, steady brand of leadership. So again, we are really kind of getting that indication of unification for Democrats in California. But of course, the big question is, are we going to have these anti-establishment type votes that, hey, these Democrat policies in California, that's why we're all leaving the state. And it is true, a lot of people are leaving the state of California, and that's really what Steve Hilton seems to be running on with these big changes, changing things in California so that people are not leaving the state, and to make the changes great to live in California. And by the way, Adam Schiff also endorsed Becerra. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Hi everyone, we just got the news, it's been confirmed, the race has been called, I'm going to be in the top 2. The best thing about that, every single person in California who wants change will now have the chance to vote for it. And by the way, that is a majority of Californians. I want to thank every single one of you who voted for me, around 2 million of you. I want to thank everyone who didn't vote for me. And I want you to know that I'm running for governor to be of service to you, to make sure that our government gets the basics right so that you can live your dreams. Follow your dream. That's what California is all about. I want this state to be the best place in the world to start and raise a family, to start and run and grow a business.
So keep in mind, Steve Hilton is well aware that Democrats outnumber Republicans by a lot in California. But there is a statistic out there it looks like Steve Hilton will be running on is the change. Because polling and stats show that people in California want change, but the big question is, what kind of change and how much change? I mean, Steve Hilton is saying he wants to lower the gas prices from $6 to $3. And I think in a bunch of other states, that's an immediate win to say something like that. But in California, you just never know because Steve Hilton is a Republican and, you know, you have those voters who are staunch Democrats who would never vote for a Republican, even if that means slashing gas prices in half and saving a lot of money. So here's the reality of the situation for Steve Hilton. He really is starting from the ground up at this point because keep in mind right now the prediction markets have Becerra at a 90% and a Steve Hilton at a 10% chance of winning in California. These are vastly different odds than what we saw in the primary. I mean, throughout almost all of the odds and the polling before we got into the actual voting, Steve Hilton was projected to actually win the primaries. In fact, if Chad Bianco would have dropped out, Steve Hilton mathematically would have most likely won in the primaries, by the way. So right now, 10 to 90% split is massive. Of course, that number will probably shift as we get closer and closer to voting. But the big question is, how much ground can Steve Hilton make? I also want to point out or remind you guys, Becerra was fighting way more Democrats against Steve Hilton fighting way more Republicans to get into that 1 and 2 position in the primaries. Now, I am very curious what's going on with Mr. Chad Bianco. Has he responded to any of this? And we still don't have a response from Chad Bianco. I am very curious if Chad Bianco will be commenting on the outcome of all of this because keep in mind, this was his last post on June 2nd. Do not be fooled or swayed by the media or career politicians. Vote your conscience, vote your values, choose integrity, character, and proven leadership over the status quo of politics. Future California governor. Again, all of the videos I've been making and the videos you've probably been watching or the news you've been watching would have vastly been different if Chad Bianco would have dropped out of this race. We can assume that a lot of those votes, Republican voters for Chad Bianco, would have most likely gone to Steve Hilton, and Steve Hilton would have probably most likely, mathematically, have won that primary. And again, this would have all been a completely different situation. So yeah, no comment as of right now from Sheriff Chad Bianco. Maybe he's writing something up. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave your comments down below. Let me know how you feel about all of this. I hope I was as fair as possible. And let me know if there are other elections or topics you want me to cover within these types of categories of general politics, like polling and debates, things like that. Thank you so much for everything. God bless all of you. Please pray for peace. Please pray for the homeless. And please seek Christ. Thank you so much.